Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I'm going to do a brief introduction of who I am. I'm also going to show off the comics I got from my Brys Mystery Box, along with a few other comics I've picked up recently in a few online auctions. Hey everybody, so introductions are called for. My name is Adam, A.K.A TheRealSimso. I'm an IT guy, general nerd, and I'm like really seriously into comics. I've been collecting off and on pretty much my entire life. I think I started getting comics when I was a real little kid, which obviously at the time I wasn't collecting, but I still have a lot of those original comics, which is pretty neat. About a year and a half ago, I started collecting again and really got back into the comic book hobby, and I've really been enjoying it. A lot of really good stuff coming out these last 2 years. You may actually have heard of me. I'm the co-host of Almighty Podcast, which is a My Hero Academia podcast. I also have another one named Kaio-Cinema that's all about the Dragon Ball Z movies. So you might have heard about me from those, or maybe even one of the other mini projects I've been on. You may have heard of me from Rocks and Rune Lords, New Path Podcast, Called Shot, which is a really throwback. If you've heard of that, that's pretty wild. But if you like comics, you may actually recognize me from a little unknown podcast named Comic Book Cabinet. And speaking of cabinets, all of these cabinets in the background, these filing cabinets, are where I host and organize my collection. So I think recently just finished like scanning everything in. I've been using CLZ Comics, and I want to say I'm right at 5,000. Like, I think I'm in that 4,800, 4,900 area. I've got maybe like half a long box I need to scan in, but I'm definitely getting up there. So I'm excited to be able to take that collection and show it off to you all. And speaking of collections, my main thing I'm really into right now is the Silver Age Green Lantern stuff. I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. I have been really my entire life. I've got Green Lantern like memorabilia scattered all over this room. I've got an awesome Green Lantern ring there. It's just my thing. I love Green Lantern. I've been collecting it a long time, and so I'm working my way through the Silver Age stuff right now. I've got a handful, not a whole lot. No first appearance is other than Guy Gardner, really. So that's kind of the big one I've got. But like I said, working my way through that. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a video with all of my Green Lantern stuff. I also recently decided that I wanted to specifically collect Animal Man. I really love Buddy Baker. There's something about that character. It's just, he's awesome. And I feel like he's untalked about, unheard of. Like, a lot of folks don't know who he is anymore because he's not super active in any comics. I even had someone the other day tell me, like, well, why would you write about Animal Man when you could write about Beast Boy? And I'm like, come on, like, Animal Man's awesome. We got to get more Animal Man love out there in the world. So definitely working my way through picking up all of the Animal Man series, and that actually kind of leads me into where I want to start off, which is some pickups that I got recently. I bought a handful of comics from, it is Joe at 360 Comics, I think. Admittedly, not as familiar with Joe as I am with James from Mint Hunter Comics. I've been following James for a long time now on YouTube, and I really love the content he produces. In fact, a big shout out to him. He's one of the reasons I'm doing this kind of a video. I really like the way he shares his passion of collecting, and that's really what this is going to be about for me. I have this huge passion for comics and collecting. To me, it's not so much about like the speculation and the flipping and the making money, and that's a really cool piece of it. But I suck at that part. I've been trying to sell stuff on eBay, and I even tried to sell a few things on Instagram. It's hard. So kudos to anybody out there that is taking this hobby and investing it in itself. That's a lot of what you hear people online talk about doing. That is not as easy as they make it sound. It's pretty hard. So kudos to anyone that's making it happen. I myself has been trying to, like I said, and been a little successful here or there. It kind of depends, but I've definitely lost out on a handful of books. So for now, I'll keep throwing stuff up on eBay when I can. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you all up to date in how I'm doing, because it's not easy, like I said. But I want to go ahead and show off the comics I picked up. I got to admit, I am like maybe a month out from receiving these. I have been sick almost the entire month of October. It has been totally nuts for me. So my Brys comics, I did already unbox. I know what they are, but you don't know what they are, and that's what we're here for. So I want to get started with the ones I picked up from James and Joe. So first one here, Animal Man number 5. Look at that front cover. This is just one of my favorites. Something about this. I have the hardcover, and this is the image that they used for the hardcover, and I wanted this to be the first comic that I got to start my Animal Man run. And there it is. I love it. And, I'd say this is a pretty high grade. easily like at 9.4 plus. I might get it graded. I don't know. I'm one of those folks that a lot of the online YouTubers probably hate because I like to grade pretty much everything. Like if I think I'm going to put it up on the wall, I'll get it graded, and it doesn't have to be a 9.8 for me. It's not that I don't care. Yeah, of course I'd love a 9.8, but they're just going to be comics that are mine, and I have that like sentimental connection to them. So I'm going to get those graded because they're mine, and that's kind of important to me. The next issue I got, Spider-Gwen #1. Pretty cool comic. It's not really for me, actually. So I started doing this thing when my son was born about 3 years ago. Every time it is around his birthday, I will pick up anything that Marvel or DC, Image, Boom, like any of the big studios, anything they're putting out for that week of his birth week, I will collect for him. And I've got his own little short box I've been building out. And he is insanely obsessed with Spider-Gwen. He watches that like Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and he loves that show. So I figured I'd pick that up for him because I didn't have one, and that was kind of his birthday gift for this year, at least a small one. I'm pretty excited about it. It's pretty cool. In fact, my local comic shop has a Spider-Gwen #1 that was signed by Stan Lee and a bunch of the other like creators and authors for Spider-Gwen. So really cool to have seen that just yesterday, I think. But I was excited to have picked that one up. Then I got a couple of super low quality Green Lantern Silver Age books. And so this is the first appearance of Keith Kenyon. Again, trying to fill out my Silver Age collection. I'm not concerned about getting all of those in super high grade. Like, I'd love to, but I realize that is a little probably outside of the realms of possibilities for me. So for now, I'm just kind of collecting what I can get my hands on. This is going to be Green Lantern #35, which is the first Aerialist. Pretty cool cover. Not a super well-known villain, so just a little minor key, but definitely one I needed. And then I've got Green Lantern #1, which I don't believe this is the Silver Age. This is going to be more like into bronze or modern, I'm pretty sure. But still, not one I had. And this one's actually in a really high grade. I would easily put that at like maybe a 9.4 if I had it pressed. I'm sure that they would find some kind of defects. But from what I can tell, pretty high grade comic. So I was excited about that one. Now, let's get into what I got from Brys Comics. Now, like I said, I have been sick, so I opened these up. I wanted to do my first reveal video specifically around these comics, but I wasn't able to. I did record it, but it's garbage. It's hot garbage. Oh my gosh. I was so nervous to be in front of a camera. I come from a podcasting world where there's no video. I've done a little bit of Twitch streaming, but it's nothing big, and it's been years. So I was a little nervous. The lighting was horrible. The way it looked wasn't good. It was super reflective. You couldn't see anything. So you know what? I decided to redo it, and then it was really funny. A little peek behind the cameras here. I actually did record another video recently, and I figured out that the glasses I use make my eyes look huge. So I just look totally weird, and I decided to re-record that as well with no glasses, just my contacts. So hopefully the quality of this video is going to be a lot better than what it would have been if I had just stuck with that first one. And I'm doing that for you because I've got some cool plans for this channel. So, first book that I got is a Death of Doctor Strange #1, 9.8 from CGC, and it is a hidden gem variant. So check that out. I am still getting some of that glare. Again, I am used to podcasting, not video stuff, but I promise I will get this figured out. In fact, I will try to get it close up there. I may even take some pictures and throw this over. Pretty cool book. You know, I have not read The Death of Doctor Strange. That was during a period of time when I was not collecting, I was not reading, but I'm excited to have gotten this one. It seems like that's going to be a pretty relevant thing. Interested in seeing what happens in the MCU. Do you think they'll end up killing off Doctor Strange, replacing him? Wouldn't surprise me, especially with some of the other things that they're doing. So we'll see that probably in the next couple of years if I had to guess. The interesting thing about that, though, hidden gem variant. I have never heard of a hidden gem variant. So I went digging, and I found out that effectively they're like unused pieces of art. So if there was an artist that did a cover and they decided to not use it, then Marvel has the rights to all of these covers, and they can just go into like their vault, pull out some of these pieces of art, and then use those as the covers, and they become like incentive variants, I guess. So it could be like a 1 in 25 or a 1 in 50 or a 1 in 500 or whatever, and that's what makes them special. It's actually why we still see some Steve Ditko covers coming out occasionally, even though he's passed away a while ago. We still get some of those covers as these like hidden gem variants. And it's really interesting. I had never heard of them, but I think it's some pretty cool artwork, and there's very controversial opinions out there online. I did not realize that people hate variants so much, but apparently That's a thing. So I occasionally will pick them up. In fact, this week came out, what was it, the Joker and Batman duo. I got the Greg Capullo variants. Like, love Greg Capullo. His artwork's incredible. So anytime he does a variant, I try to pick it up just because I really like his artwork. But I'm curious, what do you think about variants? Do you collect them? Do you hate them? Why do you hate them? Let me know, comments below. Next book, we got Star Wars Solo Adaption number 2. Pretty cool. Another 9.8 from CGC. This is a variant edition, so it is Will Sliney, but the variant cover was Carlos Pacheco. Pretty cool cover. Admittedly, not a Star Wars fan, so this one will likely end up on eBay somewhere, or maybe we'll take it to my local comic shop and see if they're interested in trying to resell it for me. But not much of a Star Wars person, so I do not know the significance of that book. It may be a first appearance. CGC did not notate it if it was, but the book I'm really excited about, my favorite of the 3 that I got, Doctor Doom number 1, and as I mentioned earlier, it is a Steve Ditko hidden variant gem cover. Let me try this side. There we go. No lights on that side. Maybe a little bit better. But how cool is that? Check out that artwork. Oh, man, I just love it. Something about the way that Steve Ditko just drew Doctor Doom. It looks awesome. I was stoked to have gotten this, especially since I don't think I have too many Steve Ditko comics. But another reason I was excited about it is, look at that, CBCS. This is the first book I've gotten that's been graded by CBCS. Now, I know that in the news lately there have been a lot of controversies with CGC and CBCS. I've been wanting to try CBCS for a while, actually. I think I've got probably 40 books out to CGC right now, and one of them is actually been signed by a bunch of people, and I, at the time, just was naive and didn't know that CGC would not verify that, and the shop that I sent it through didn't tell me. So when I get that guy back, I'll end up cracking it and sending it to CBCS to get those signatures verified. But in general, like, just holding that book, like, the plastic casing feels better to me, which I don't know, maybe that seems weird, but I really like the way that those cases feel. So I may end up sending some books over to CBCS just to kind of get a more feel for that company. I like the way that looks. I like the way it feels sturdier for some reason. But I am kind of curious, if you use CBCS over CGC or anyone over CGC, who do you use? Right now I'm fighting those timelines. I think I've got, like I said, a lot of books out, and some of them have been out for a year, and it's just like, gosh, like, I've been waiting for so long. Not that CBCS's turnaround times seem to be too much better from what they've listed on their website, but regardless, always interested in trying different companies and seeing how they do things differently. So I was pretty excited to get something from CBCS. But otherwise, thank you so much, Brys Comics and Mint Hunter Comics, and also 360 Comics. All 3 of you guys created awesome opportunities for me to pick up some really cool books, and I really appreciate that. I'll have videos to their stuff like all over the YouTube channel. Hopefully, if you haven't watched them, please go and do. But like I said, really appreciate all the work they put into it. I also got to give a big shout out to like Bronjade's Comics and Journo's Comics, Swaggle Haas. Great YouTube channels. If you are into comics and pop culture and stuff, you got to go watch their stuff. It's just excellent. They've definitely inspired me to create channels like this. And speaking of my channel, you might be wondering, like, all right, so you did this YouTube video. What else you got planned? Admittedly, I don't really know. I have a couple of pretty high-level ideas. I definitely don't have any kind of a schedule that I know I'm going to stick to. I've got the Bad Idea subscription happening right now, so I'm getting in like all of the Bad Idea comics, and they're doing a bunch of crazy promotional stuff with like reviewing their comics and these like instant wins. I may do some videos pertaining to that, so that way I can kind of participate in that whole thing. I may end up doing some character highlights, which actually brings me into my next big reveal. Check this out. Marvel Masterworks. This is going to be for Werewolf by Night. So this is like the hardcover edition, which I gotta say, I don't really care for this like hardcover, like I guess it's a book cover itself. I think it looks so much nicer without that plastic cover, that plastic sheet. Just check that out. Werewolf by Night. That is awesome. I have not admittedly read a lot of these monster books like The Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, all of the old Marvel monsters. I'm just not familiar with them. And when Disney Plus came out with that Werewolf by Night special, we watched that and I just absolutely enjoyed it. I loved it so much. I was like, okay, I got to go read up on this character. Like, who is this character? Who, where did he come from? What all has he been involved in? I was aware of the fact that Moon Knight had his first appearance in Werewolf by Night. I think it was 32. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've done a big research on Moon Knight, but I wanted to dive into Jack Russell. That seems like such a cool character, and he seems to be in contact with a lot of the Marvel Universe to some extent based off what little I know. So I'm going to go do a deep dive on this Volume 1 and do some kind of a character highlight episode where I will basically catch you up on who Jack Russell is. I did a lot of this whenever I was recording Comic Book Cabinet, and I absolutely loved it. There's just something so cool about taking a character and like reading the first appearance and then going through and learning about them throughout time and history and like where they are now. You know, how do we go from that first appearance of Werewolf by Night to where he is now? How does he fit into the Marvel picture and even the MCU at a large? I'm very excited to see what they end up doing with that character, and I'm really excited to dig into this and read it and then put it in some kind of a format for you to learn about Jack Russell himself. I also have some ideas around doing like maybe a bi-monthly or every couple of weeks, just have a, hey, here's what I'm reading and this is what I'm enjoying and why. I would love to know what other folks are reading and why they're, enjoying it. There's a lot of big series happening right now. Dark Crisis is out. Judgment Day is happening, which has been pretty big in the Marvel Universe. Admittedly, I tend to lean more towards DC than Marvel. I say that wearing like an X-Men shirt and showing off a bunch of Marvel comics there. But I think if in general you asked me, I would say I'm a much bigger DC fan. So we'll probably tend to lean more towards those characters, but we'll see. If you have character requests, if you end up watching that first Werewolf by Night and you're like, dang, this is awesome. I want to read this. I want to know more about, the characters like this. Let me know, and maybe I'll pick one of your characters. Otherwise, I've got this huge collection behind me, and my wife and I are in the middle of a move, so it's likely that when we move, all of these are going back in long boxes, and I had a consideration of doing some kind of a system where maybe I mark those long boxes and then roll a die and pull the corresponding box and kind of just go through it and show off my collection. I consider myself a bit of a collector of collections, I'll say, because I've bought several collections and I've also inherited a bunch. And it's really interesting because when you inherit a collection, you get so much kind of random stuff. It's like whatever that other person was interested in. And when I go through and I scan all those in and I've got this, application that lets me see kind of everything that's in a series, it's funny how often like collectors will collect the same thing and then accidentally miss, or maybe they resold like those key issues. So I've inherited two collections from like the mid 70s through like the early 90s, and it's so funny how they often will have like the same exact runs and like the same exact issues, but then miss like big key issues. And I always have that thought of like, did they need gas? Like, were they going on a date or something and sold that and needed money, or did they just never get it because their LCS didn't have it, or maybe they didn't have enough, or something happened in mailing? And you'll never know, like, unless you know those people and they remember. It's just kind of this cool mystery. So anyways, I've got a lot of cool ideas. Very excited to share them off with everybody. But if you like this video, please subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And as I mentioned earlier, I also have a handful of podcasts out there that are still active. So I've got not links right here because YouTube won't let me link stuff yet, but I put pictures. Almighty Podcast and Kaio-Cinema. I did it backwards. That's fine. Again, Dragon Ball Z and My Hero Academia. So if you are interested in either of those topics, there are definitely links in the description below for both of those podcasts. And I would love it if you check them out. And again, hope you enjoyed this video. See you later.